There are two kinds of readers in the world. Those who write stuff in their books and people who think that those people belong in jail.
Today we're talking about annotating, why I do it, what all the tabs mean, and whether or not they make me a better reader.
Or whether you've simply found a way to turn reading into homework. As the representative of people who don't annotate, I've prepared questions.
Ooh. As the representative of people who own entirely too many sticky tabs, I'll do my best to explain myself. Welcome back. I'm Genevieve.
And I'm her mom, Diana. Grab your favorite hot beverage and join us.
All right, what do you got for me?
How did you first get into annotating books?
If I remember right, I'm on year 2 of annotating. When I started watching booktube videos, I noticed other people annotating, and then I watched videos specifically about annotating. I don't think it's anything I did in school. I don't know if we were supposed to do it in school. I know nowadays our 7th grade language arts teachers tell the kids to annotate and things like that. I don't remember doing that in school. That doesn't mean that we weren't supposed to, and maybe I just wasn't doing it, but I think what sparked my interest in it was when people started describing it as a way to have a conversation with the book. They talked about how it helped them to remember important events and character names and like really to remember more of the book. As a series fantasy reader, or sometimes you read a book and then the next one doesn't come out for like a year, my intent was, well, let's see if this makes it so I don't have to reread. I can just like go back and look at my annotations. Okay. That's kind of how it started.
Well, you just answered all my questions.
I did not.
What kinds of things do you typically highlight or note?
Universally for any book, I always have a section for the characters or the main character. It just says characters.
So when you're introduced to a character, what do you do? How do you annotate it?
I use underline, and then I have like a tab that is the color for that character or for just the characters in general.
Okay.
I usually am underlining like the way they're described, which is interesting because I don't know if you do this, but when a character is described, I probably already have an idea in my head of what they should look like regardless of what the author says. And so even though I might be underlining, you know, brown hair and blue eyes and a skinny nose or something like that, I already have in my head what they look like regardless of what the author said. But then it will turn into important things about the character, like about their history or their backstory or important things that have happened to them. Another thing that I always annotate is favorite quotes. Those I'll pull out my highlighter and I'll actually highlight my favorite quotes, and then sometimes I'll do some like circling or make some other like exclamation points or hearts or something like that. A laughing
Doodling.
face. Yeah, kind of for like why I liked the quote. And then usually like important events or important to the plot. That's another thing that in just about any book, any genre, I would probably annotate or underline. I have annotated major themes in the book, which usually involves me doing some Googling ahead of time, because before you read a book, you don't necessarily know what the themes are.
Yeah, like what would you call a major theme?
The very first book I annotated was The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, which was not a book that a lot of people liked by her, but I think I enjoyed it because I annotated it. One of the themes, control and servitude. So this is a book about, if I remember right, she's like a housemaid that ends up having powers, and there's a big contest and they have a guy that is kind of like her guide into winning the contest. Powers and memories, colonialism, and anti-Semitism. Those are kind of the big themes.
Okay.
I apparently didn't find anything about colonialism and anti-Semitism. I wrote it down, but like there's no tab here. So
anytime as you're reading that you found something about control and servitude,
yes,
you put a...
Exactly. So I picked that color, I marked it.
So you tab the page and underline the piece on the page.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
My next question, which is obvious, do you use a color coding system? If so, how does it work? So kind of describe that.
Yeah, so this is, like I said, this is my first book, and this is not what I do now. I mean, I still do the same idea.
Show us. Yeah.
There we go. Oh, you can see them now. So these were the tabs I had in my house because I hadn't decided if I was going to commit. Do you remember when you and I started doing scrapbooking and how much money you put into like all the stickers and the supplies supplies, and then we did scuba diving, and it was the same thing. We kept picking expensive hobbies. Well, she kept picking. I wasn't paying for any of it. I wanted to try it before I bought, which is
That
mostly
makes sense.
it's
No.
Post-it notes. Like, it's not expensive stuff, but like before I put money into it. Now I have much more muted toned colors. Like, they're not the flags that you would use for work. And same with the highlighters too. Like, so these are all pretty neutral tones. Is that how you would describe them? And same with the Post-it notes that I use too. It's a lot of like beiges and blushes. My highlighters even, these are my highlighters. Very light colors and things like that. I don't want it to distract from, it's not like a textbook. I'm not trying to memorize the function of the mitochondria or something like that. I'm just trying to bring attention to something in the book, but also I don't want it to be a distraction. I really like the neutral highlighters.
Do they sell those specifically for
I don't know if that's
annotating?
specifically what they're for, but like, do you see how like that quote is highlighted, but it wouldn't like jump off the page if you were flipping through the book? I don't know if they're specifically for annotating. I don't follow stationery trends, so I don't know if that's why the muted tones are popular or if the muted tones are just more popular in general
where are you
nowadays.
purchasing
Amazon.
them?
I just get all
Oh,
my stuff on
okay.
Amazon now.
Okay.
So now I pick tabs that match the cover of the book-ish. They actually sell, like if you look up a book, there are people
They
that
sell
make
matching.
that will make I haven't gone that far.
Man, that
I'm not
is
quite that.
amazing.
Yeah. So I always have a key at the beginning that I put on the front,
What
and
each
then
one
and then
means.
I put the sticky there so that I remember, like, okay, this color is for characters, this color is for quotes and things like that. So
Well, how do you balance enjoying the story with spending time annotating?
it's a good question. I would say that annotating makes the story more enjoyable for me. In fact, if I'm not annotating a book, it's because I'm not enjoying it, is probably what it is.
Oh, wow.
There's been, I don't have them because I get rid of them. If I have started annotating a book and then I stop annotating it, it's because I don't care about the story enough to think that anything is important. I don't care about the characters, or they're not telling me enough about the characters that I think are worth annotating. There's no good quotes in there that I want to remember. And so I annotate less if a book is not enjoyable. That was one of the things that I was worried about, was like, is it going to take me longer to read if I'm annotating? And I don't feel like it is. I would say the one thing that might take longer, I usually immersion read, so I listen to audio and read physically. And so if I'm just listening to the audio and I hear something that I want to annotate, Libby and Audible, you can like clip things and mark things. I'll hit that button on my app and then I'll go back and annotate it in the physical book later.
Show me how to do that.
Oh yeah,
There's
you can even take notes. Like, you can say why you're marking a spot and things like that on it, and then go back and find that location.
I
in
would
the
have
book.
liked that all in her head.
Oh, yeah,
I keep wanting to pull up things that I read, and I know I'm nowhere near
You
what
could
she said.
buy the actual book.
I could, I know, but
So that part does take longer. In terms of enjoyment, I enjoyed this book more because
you
I was having a discussion with the author. I use Post-it notes more for this. If I get angry at a character, I'll write it on a Post-it note and put it in the book.
so
Or
why did you do
yeah,
that?
or if I have questions about something, like, or if I want to make a prediction about something, I'll write it on a Post-it note. And some people will do it in the margins. I'm not quite to the point where, like, I have done it in the margins. I'm always afraid my handwriting looks bad or I'm going to spell something wrong. And then it's like, at least if I do it on a Post-it note and I spell it wrong, I can just get another Post-it note. But there's plenty of people that will do that in the book too.
Right in the margins. What makes you decide that a passage is worth annotating?
I think if it's something that I think is profound, or a quote that I might want to repeat, if it was like a nonfiction, if it was an interesting fact that I would want to find again, if it's like a favorite quote, it's just something that calls to me that I think is, yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, that's a really good way of saying that.
What types of or elements of fiction are you most drawn towards annotating?
As I've done it more, I don't necessarily think it's as important to annotate characters unless the book has a lot of different characters. I have found that that's less meaningful for me, because if it's like a series and it follows the same two characters, like, I can stop annotating them, you know what I mean? But if it's a book that has a lot of characters in it, then sometimes annotating is important, but a lot of times I just also will take notes, like, oh, this is this character, this is this character.
So do you annotate every time a character shows up, or just the first time the character shows up?
That's a good question. It depends on the character. If it's like a main character, I will annotate certain things about them, but not like when they just like show up. If they do something important in the story, then I will annotate about like the thing they did. The hardest thing to annotate is foreshadowing, because then I feel like I would just be like underlining things all the time, like, oh, is this important? Oh, is this important? So I don't annotate that. If I was rereading a book, then I might do that. Like sometimes it's hard to know what to annotate because you're like, well, I don't know if this is important. For example, the book that we just hung out today and we went to Half Price Books, and one of the books that I sold to them was a book where I kept trying to predict things, and I was like, oh, I think this person's suspicious. Oh, and then they weren't. Like the whole book was just like nothing climactic happened. There was no villain. All these people were just what they were. I annotated them and then it meant nothing. If it's a fantasy book, I'll annotate like interesting aspects of the magic system. So like how the magic system works, or in Babel, it was a lot of like the vocabulary and a lot of the ways that she described things. If you're reading something and you are paying close attention to it, you kind of feel like, ooh, I feel like this is important. And if it's not, like, that's okay. It's just a mark on a page. You know what I mean?
How has annotation changed the way you understand a story?
So I haven't gotten to test my series theory yet. I've been reading series pretty close together. I haven't had any new releases that required me to go back and look. So I haven't seen if that works yet, but I will soon.
What is it you're looking to see if it works?
Instead of rereading a book a year later.
Oh, to see if
yes,
you've retained
to see if I can just like
better.
look through my annotations and see. So I haven't gotten to test
Okay.
that theory yet. I would say definitely think deeper. I'm looking for themes. Like if I am annotating themes in a book, then I'll be like, oh, I do see that theme a lot more often than I probably would have.
Pay
I think
attention.
I would notice the theme, but at the end, you know what I mean? Instead of like going into a book looking for those themes. So I would say that is one aspect that is different. It's also like made me pay closer attention to characters. Like I started noticing, you know what? It doesn't matter how the author describes them. I have a picture in my head, like, and that doesn't change whether I annotate or not. I have gone back and been like, oh, I remembered annotating that. And what was that quote again? Or what did they say? And I've gone back while reading a book. So that's helped. It's been easier to reference things. I feel like it's probably helped me remember aspects of the book better by annotating. I don't annotate my library books, obviously. So I don't annotate everything that I read. And every once in a while, like I just read a romance that I didn't annotate. If I had come across a quote in there that I was like, oh, this is really funny, I want to remember this, I probably would have pulled out my little stash and annotated it, but I wasn't going to go in there going like, here's my characters here. Like I didn't need any of that.
The colors and all
right,
of that.
yeah.
Can you think of a time when the annotation helped you catch something that you might have otherwise missed?
I would say, yeah, plots and themes. Like there are themes that I probably would not have honed in on without looking for them closely. Like I think there's big overarching plots in certain books. Like the one that I'm reading right now, there are plots and themes on like gender. It's like a male and a female character, but there's a lot of times when their genders almost seem like the way they present themselves to the world seems reversed. And that was a theme that came up in the list before I started reading it. And I was like, oh, like I probably would have eventually got there, but the first couple times it happened, I was like, oh, there's an instance of that. There's an instance of that. Like it happens early on.
What does a heavily annotated book say about your reading experience?
Oh, that's a good question. I've seen people where there are so many tabs, like it's covered with tabs. And I always think it looks kind of cool. Personally, if I am annotating a lot, either I'm having like a really in-depth discussion with the author or with the book. I'm finding things that I think are interesting, or I'm finding things that I want to argue about or that I disagree with. I can tend to right away tell if I don't like a book, and then I don't annotate because I'm not going to keep it. But I've seen people that when they don't like a book, they will annotate the crap out of it. And then when they discuss it, they'll be like, and then on this page, this happened. And then on this page, you know, and they'll use their annotations for that. I think it's cool when there's a bunch of like tabs and stuff like that
for
in a book.
It probably indicates that you really got
Very
a lot
close
of that
reading.
book.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Is there a particular annotation that you've made that you're especially proud of or amused by?
Some people draw, oh my gosh, they'll like do all kinds of doodles. There was one book where I started drawing little mushrooms because it was part of the book and I was like, I can draw a little mushroom. And I just felt like the pull to draw, I feel like it wasn't this book though, now that I'm flipping through it. It's not mushrooms, they're little grapes. But there's people
Show our viewers.
But there's people that
curious.
will do, you know, entire, it must have been another book where I did a mushroom. Obviously a book where mushrooms were important in it. So I've done like simple doodles like that. I would say my favorite thing are just quotes, like really powerful quotes where I like highlight and then the marks next to it, and I'll sticky tab it, and it's like, this is a quote that I want to remember, you know.
And do you tend to?
Well, I don't need to remember the quote. I just know where it is in the book now. I usually put the sticky tab in a different direction so I can find that quote faster.
Are there certain genres that lend themselves towards annotating versus not?
I know there's tons of people that annotate romance books. I could care less about annotating a romance book. There might be some like random things that the characters say to each other that are cute or funny, or like a swoony scene that you might want to revisit or something, but I don't feel the need to do that. So for me, that's one, but there's tons of people that annotate romance books. Sci-fi, fantasy, because those tend to lean into like series and magic systems and world building that you have to like keep track of. So I would say those for me tend to. Literary books, contemporary literature, literary fiction. The Wedding People. I annotated The Wedding People even though I didn't like it. And it had a lot of like poignant quotes that I liked even though I didn't like the book. I liked the message that it was saying. So I annotated that one even though I didn't end up keeping it because it had some like very poignant quotes in it. Yeah, I would say the only one that I tend to not annotate is romance. But that's just me. Like that's, you know.
Which author gives you the most to work with to annotate as an annotator?
I would say YA books tend to lead to less annotating for me because when you write a book for younger people, you're not going to get...
It's more in your face.
Yeah. R.F. Kuang has been... there's a lot of annotating in there. If I have to look up a word, I usually write the definition of the word in the book. I have to do that a lot with hers so that if I do reread it, I don't have to look up the word. Plus, I usually learn the word better if I do that. I'm currently reading an Alex E. Harrow book. It's the only book I've read by her. I'm really enjoying it. Like lots of highlighting, lots of underlining. It's the only book of hers that I've read, so I can't really say that she's one of those authors. Yeah. Matt Dinniman, I do not annotate the Dungeon Crawler Carl books.
You love those books.
I do. I love them. I started and I was like, oh my God, if I have to memorize every time they get a loot box or a power up or a battle, like this whole book is going to be covered. Again, if there's random quotes that I like, I will mark those, but I just go for the ride on those. I will randomly highlight things that are funny. That would be way daunting to try to annotate. Oh, and then T. Kingfisher. She's another one that is fun to annotate. But these are like my favorite authors too. You know what I mean? Like I think it has more to do with if you like the book, you annotate more in it. You know what I mean?
What do you think about the rise of annotation communities on social media?
It's up there with reading culture in general. I think that if people are annotating for any reason at all, more power to them. I can tell you that both of our 7th grade language arts teachers would love it if their students would annotate more. And I do it in front of my students so that they feel like it's okay to do. There are actually trends where people will buy a book for their friend, read it and annotate it, and then gift them the annotated version.
The Babel you gave me had your annotations.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because so there definitely is like an interesting creative culture in it. But I think anything that's getting people to read deeper and
more power to.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever run out of the sticky tabs in the middle of a great book?
Okay, so there was a book recently where I picked out my color scheme, and I always try to see like I don't count how many tabs there are, but I'll like feel like, oh, is this one low? And I'll try to gauge like, okay, if this one's low, I'm probably okay to use this for some random thing. Yes. But if it's like characters, I know I'm gonna need a lot, or if it's like magic system, I know I'm gonna need a lot. So in that particular book, I ran out of one color, and I was like, well, this one's close enough, and I just kept running out. And by the end, I didn't care as much, but I am very type A. There are some of these where I probably won't, like this has one tab left. Like I'm never gonna like mix and match. I need to have enough tabs. And if I mixed this one to this one, it would drive me insane. Like one where it's all color and one where it's white. I like using all of these, but I would never use them all in the same book. That would just be blasphemous. They have to match. But that's my type A personality right there. So.
Have you ever considered therapy for your... Have you ever read somebody else's annotated copy of a book?
No, and I would like to actually. Like, did you read my copy of, this is another good one, The Buffalo Hunter. That was another really good one to annotate.
That was the one that you gave me.
Yes, because he uses so much Blackfeet terminology, the words they use for the different animals I would write in there. And I feel like reading that would be helpful helpful. Plus, I put that Post-it note that told you where to stop, and you
bother
didn't
reading
listen
me.
to me.
I should
Sorry,
have.
I thought about that after the fact. Okay, you were asking about reading somebody else's. No, I haven't. Nobody else I know annotates, but I would love to have somebody read one of my annotated books and let me know if it was helpful.
Do you think annotation changes a reader's relationship with the story?
Oh, for sure. I think that's one of my favorite things about it and why I've kept doing it is once I got in my head that it was having a conversation, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to have this conversation. Like, that's what book clubs are for.
Right.
You read a couple chapters and then you go, well, at least the book clubs where you have
actually
check-ins.
talk, yeah.
Yeah. And I think it almost becomes like your own personal book club. And
I like that.
And if you're reading a book by yourself and nobody else is reading it, it's your opportunity to yell at a character or say, you better not do this.
Don't
like that.
go into that
Right,
basement
exactly.
with
Yeah.
the chainsaw. You annotated the first book you showed me. Did you, from that point on, continue on, or did you kind of have to work your way up to it?
If I remember right, after I read this book, I did a couple ebooks, and I annotate ebooks too, because you can do all that stuff on Kindle. And Kobo I don't have a Kobo. Kobo is another e-reader that's not owned by Amazon. People with Kobos can actually write in the margins with a stylus and things like that, which I would love to be able to do that. So no, I've pretty much, other than like a random mystery, thriller, romance book, I pretty much annotate. I don't annotate my library books, but I pretty much annotate just about everything else. My annotation has changed a little bit. When I was annotating these, they're kind of all over the place. I would put the tab by where I would mark. That was hard to go back and reference. So I started annotating this way, where all of these tabs are characters. All of these tabs are, I don't know, we'll say favorite quotes or something. So then it's easier to find things. So if I'm like, oh, I want to know my favorite quotes, I know these are all my favorite quotes right here. And so they're a lot easier to find. It's harder.
Nice.
It takes a little bit more like lining up, but I like the results better.
Did you watch a video or something about how to annotate or read a book?
I watched a couple. The one I would recommend, The Plant-Based Bride, she does a whole bunch of YouTube videos, but she had one about annotating, and she kind of showed the levels of annotating. Her books are full of tabs when she's really into them. But she even talks about, like, even if you're just a casual annotator, or she made some suggestions, like, these are some things you could probably annotate in all books, but if you really want to get into, she almost gave like 3 levels of annotation. That was probably the second or third video that I had watched before I started. She's the one that talked about like having a conversation with the book, and that's when it kind of like clicked for me.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to start annotating but feels intimidated?
Just start. Just rip off the Band-Aid.
do it.
Yeah, depending on your type of book, they're all going to have characters. Well, assuming it's fiction, they're all going to have characters. They're going to have a plot that you're going to want to mark important things, and hopefully you find favorite quotes. I would say those are the 3 big things. If it's a fantasy, maybe throw like a tab in there for your magic system or whatever it is. It's fun. Like, if you're afraid to write in the book, write on Post-it notes. They make clear Post-it notes where you can put the Post-it note over the book and then underline if you're really afraid. I think that's doing too much. Making a thin underline in a book,
It's not gonna.
it enhances
a
it.
modern
I feel
day
like.
book.
Yes.
You're not going to want to do it to a book that was published in 16.
Well, if it's an antique that's worth
Yeah.
money, then maybe don't do it to that one. Once you get in the groove, you just feel motivated, the power, like, ooh, I want to remember this
want to
quote.
put a sticky note on
exactly.
there.
After all that, what do you think?
Well, I can't wait to find out how to annotate an audio book.
Okay. Am I still a crazy person?
No, I mean, I get it. One of the things I hear over and over from the people that I know who are watching our videos is how impressed they are of how you remember the authors and the characters and the story, when I feel like I can remember I read that book. Sometimes after prompted, more comes back to me, and sometimes even though I thought it was a really good book,
You don't remember
it's
as
just
much.
not. It could be partly my methodology of reading. I mean, I know I'm not giving 100% of my brain over to the book or the story.
We want to know where you fall on the annotation spectrum. Are you highlighting everything, or are you just thinking about dabbling into tabbing?
If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe. We've got more bookish conversations coming soon.
Thanks for watching. Till the next video, happy reading.
Happy reading. Grab your favorite beverage. It's not at all what it was supposed to say.
It's okay, it can say whatever we want.
Okay.
All right, Cheddar, you're entirely too fuzzy for this. I'm sorry. Ugh. I actually I had one of my books at school, and one of my students was flipping through it, and he saw me like swearing at a character on a Post-it note, and I was like, whoops! So, okay, hold on. What was the question again? I forgot the question. Sorry.
What types of literary devices do you find yourself noticing most often?
Define literary device.
All right, next question. What's the most unusual thing you've ever annotated besides me?
What do you mean besides you?
Before, you know.
Oh, like on your face, before annotating on your face. You did always tell me I would have to grow up and see a therapist.
Yeah.
She told me that frequently. One time because I wore wooden clogs into a McDonald's.
If your annotations could talk, what would they say about your reading habits?
Ooh.
Catabasis would be like, I'm the wrong color. No, not me.